April 24th, 1980, 8 American helicopters lifted off from the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz and disappeared into the night. Their mission sounded almost impossible. Fly deep into Iran, rescue 52 American hostages, and get everyone home before sunrise. On paper, the operation looked brilliant. In reality, it was already beginning to fall apart. Before the rescue force reached Tehran, before a single hostage was freed, before the assault had even begun, the mission started unraveling. By sunrise, 8 American servicemen would lose their lives. The hostages would remain prisoners. And one failed operation would change the future of American special operations forever. This was Operation Eagle Claw. To understand how this mission began, we have to rewind almost 6 months. November 4th, 1979. Earlier that year, Iran had undergone one of the most significant political revolutions of the 20th century. The government of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, one of America's closest allies in the Middle East, had collapsed after months of nationwide unrest. Leading the revolution was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who returned from exile and established the Islamic Republic of Iran. Almost overnight, the relationship between Tehran and Washington deteriorated. Then, in October 1979, the United States made a decision that ignited even greater anger. The exiled Shah was allowed to enter America for medical treatment. Many Iranians believed the move was the first step toward restoring him to power. Weeks later, that anger erupted. On the morning of November 4th, hundreds of Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. Within hours, they had taken control of the compound. American staff rushed to destroy classified documents. A handful escaped. But 52 diplomats and embassy employees were captured. The students demanded one thing: return the Shah to Iran. The United States refused. What followed became one of the most humiliating diplomatic crises in modern American history. For the next 173 days, the world's most powerful nation would search for a way to bring them home. For the next several months, the hostage crisis dominated headlines around the world. Every evening, American television networks updated the number of days the hostages had been held: day 20, day 50, day 100. With each passing week, public frustration continued to grow. Inside the White House, President Jimmy Carter faced mounting pressure. His administration pursued every diplomatic option it could. Economic sanctions were imposed. International allies attempted mediation. Private negotiations continued behind closed doors. None of it worked. Iran's new leadership refused to release the hostages, and every failed negotiation pushed the United States closer to a decision it had hoped to avoid: a military rescue. It was an option filled with enormous risk. The hostages were being held in the middle of Tehran, one of the largest cities in the Middle East. Any conventional military assault would almost certainly trigger a wider conflict and put the hostages' lives in immediate danger. If a rescue was going to succeed, it had to be invisible, fast, precise, and unlike anything the US military had ever attempted before. Somewhere inside the Pentagon, a small group of planners had already begun working on a mission that officially didn't exist.
Even while diplomats searched for a peaceful solution, another plan was quietly taking shape. Just 2 days after the embassy was seized, military planners began exploring the possibility of a rescue mission. Over the next 5 months, that plan evolved into one of the most complex special operations ever attempted by the United States. The mission was given 2 names. Operation Eagle Claw described the rescue itself. Operation Rice Bowl referred to the military task force responsible for carrying it out. It would bring together units from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and the CIA, an unprecedented level of coordination at the time. At the center of the mission was Delta Force, America's newest elite counterterrorism unit, commanded by Colonel Charles "Charlie" Beckwith. Their objective sounded simple: enter Iran without being detected, reach the center of Tehran, rescue all 52 hostages.
then escape the country before Iranian forces could respond. But turning that objective into reality required a plan unlike anything the US military had ever attempted. And every step had to work perfectly. The operation would depend on a remote desert landing site known only by its codename, Desert 1. The rescue plan was unlike anything the US military had ever attempted. It wasn't a single mission. It was a chain of separate operations spread across 2 nights involving aircraft, helicopters, CIA operatives, and multiple military units. Everything began on the night of April 24th, 1980. 3 MC-130 aircraft carrying Delta Force operators, along with 3 EC-130 transport planes loaded with fuel, would fly hundreds of miles into Iranian airspace. At the same time, 8 RH-53D Sea Stallion helicopters would launch from the USS Nimitz in the Arabian Sea and fly to a remote landing site deep inside Iran. That landing site had one name, Desert 1. If everything went according to schedule, the helicopters would refuel there before transporting Delta Force to a second hidden location known as Desert 2, just outside Tehran. CIA operatives had already entered Iran in secret. Their job was to survey the landing zones, prepare escape routes, and arrange civilian trucks that would move the assault force into the capital without attracting attention. The rescue itself would take place the following night. Delta Force would storm the US Embassy, free the hostages, then move everyone to a nearby soccer stadium where helicopters would extract them to Mansouriya Air Base. From there, Air Force transport aircraft would fly the entire force out of Iran. It was an extraordinary plan, but it left almost no room for error. The entire mission depended on one assumption. Every aircraft would arrive exactly where it was supposed to, exactly when it was supposed to. By April 1980, 5 months of planning were complete. On April 11th, President Jimmy Carter gave the final authorization. The operation was officially underway. On the evening of April 24th, the first aircraft crossed into Iranian airspace. The MC-130 and EC-130 transport planes flew low across the desert to avoid Iranian radar. Aboard them were Delta Force operators, rangers, fuel crews, and the equipment needed to keep the mission alive. Far behind them, 8 RH-53D Sea Stallion helicopters lifted off from the USS Nimitz and turned toward the Iranian coast. For the first time, every part of the rescue plan was moving exactly as intended. Then, the desert changed everything. As the helicopters pushed deeper into Iran, they encountered a massive haboob, a fast-moving wall of sand and dust capable of reducing visibility to almost zero. Pilots could barely see beyond their windscreens. Navigation became increasingly difficult. Formation broke apart. And within minutes, the operation faced its first serious setback. Before the helicopters had even reached Desert 1, the mission had already begun losing aircraft. The dust storm scattered the helicopter formation across the Iranian desert. One helicopter experienced a warning indicating a possible cracked rotor blade. With no way to confirm whether the aircraft was safe to continue, its crew made the decision to turn back toward the USS Nimitz. The mission had already lost one of its 8 helicopters. A second helicopter pressed on through the storm, but soon suffered a failure of its flight instruments. Flying blind at night over unfamiliar terrain was too dangerous, and its pilot also reversed course. Now, only 6 helicopters remained. Technically, the mission could still continue, but there was no margin left. Every remaining aircraft had to reach Desert 1 in working condition. Hours later, the transport planes landed safely at the desert staging area. Delta Force operators secured the perimeter while fuel crews prepared for the helicopters to arrive. They waited. Minutes passed. Then, one by one, the surviving helicopters finally emerged from the darkness. Relief quickly turned into concern. During the flight, another helicopter had developed a serious hydraulic failure. After inspection on the ground, maintenance crews reached a difficult conclusion. The aircraft was no longer safe to fly. That left only 5 operational helicopters, one fewer than the mission required. In a matter of hours, a carefully engineered rescue operation had reached a critical decision point. The mission required at least 6 helicopters. There were only 5. The next decision would determine whether Operation Eagle Claw lived or died.
The rescue plan had been built around one non-negotiable requirement: at least 6 operational helicopters. With only 5 remaining, the mission could no longer continue. At Desert 1, commanders gathered to assess their options. Colonel Charlie Beckwith, leading Delta Force, knew the rescue couldn't succeed without the minimum number of aircraft. The risks had simply become too great. After reviewing the situation, the field commanders reached a unanimous recommendation: abort the mission. That recommendation was relayed through the chain of command to Washington. Thousands of miles away, President Jimmy Carter received the update. Months of planning, hundreds of personnel, and America's best chance to rescue the hostages had come down to a single decision. Carter approved the recommendation. Operation Eagle Claw was over. The hostages would remain in Tehran. The rescue force would return home. It was a disappointing ending, but everyone was still alive. Or so they believed. Because the most devastating moment of the entire operation had not happened during the mission. It happened while they were trying to leave. The mission had failed, but the tragedy that would define Operation Eagle Claw was only seconds away.
As the rescue force prepared to leave Desert 1, crews began repositioning aircraft for the evacuation. Conditions were far from ideal. The desert was covered in loose sand, and every helicopter rotor threw massive clouds of dust into the air. Pilots called it a brownout, a situation where visibility can disappear in seconds. One of the remaining RH-53D Sea Stallion helicopters began a slow hover taxi across the landing area. Its pilot was Major James Schaefer. As the helicopter moved through the dust, visual references started to vanish. The horizon disappeared. The landing zone disappeared. And for a few critical seconds, the pilot was flying almost entirely by instinct. Then, disaster struck.
The helicopter drifted off course and collided with a parked EC-130 Hercules loaded with fuel. The impact was catastrophic. A massive fireball erupted across the desert. Fuel ignited instantly. Flames engulfed both aircraft. Crew members scrambled to escape as ammunition and equipment detonated inside the wreckage. Within moments, 8 American servicemen had been killed. 5 Air Force personnel, 3 Marines. In a single instant, a failed rescue mission became a national tragedy. But the disaster wasn't over. In the chaos that followed, commanders faced one final decision. The explosion left the landing zone in complete chaos. With fires spreading across Desert 1 and the risk of more explosions increasing by the minute, commanders had only one priority: get everyone out. The surviving personnel boarded the remaining EC-130 transport aircraft as quickly as possible. There was no time to recover every piece of equipment, no time to destroy every damaged aircraft, and no time to collect every classified document left behind. As the transports lifted off, 5 American helicopters remained in the desert. Some were disabled, others were still flyable, but all of them were abandoned. When daylight broke over Desert 1, the wreckage told the story of a mission that had ended in failure before it ever reached Tehran. Back in Washington, President Jimmy Carter addressed the American people. He accepted full responsibility for the operation. There were no excuses, no attempt to shift the blame, only the acknowledgement that the rescue mission had failed. For the families of the 8 servicemen who never returned, the cost was immeasurable. For the 52 hostages still inside the U.S. Embassy, their ordeal was far from over. The mission had failed, but its impact was only beginning. Within days of the mission, the U.S. military launched a comprehensive investigation. The review led by Admiral James L. Holloway III, reached a clear conclusion. The mission had not failed because of a lack of courage. It had failed because America's military wasn't organized to conduct an operation this complex. Elite units from different branches had trained separately. Their equipment wasn't always compatible. Command responsibilities overlapped. And no single organization existed to coordinate every part of a mission like Eagle Claw. The lessons were impossible to ignore. Over the following years, the United States began rebuilding its special operations capability from the ground up. Specialized aviation units were expanded into what became the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, better known as the Night Stalkers. The Joint Communications Unit was created to ensure different military branches could communicate seamlessly during high-risk operations. Then, in 1987, the United States established the United States Special Operations Command, or USSOCOM, bringing America's elite special operations forces under a unified command for the first time. The changes born from one failed mission would shape countless operations in the decades that followed. The helicopters never reached Tehran, but the lessons they left behind reached every future battlefield. Operation Eagle Claw is remembered as one of the greatest failures in American military history. But history isn't shaped only by success. Sometimes it's shaped by the missions that expose weaknesses no one knew existed. The rescue never reached Tehran. The 52 hostages were eventually released on January 20th, 1981, after 444 days in captivity, only minutes after Ronald Reagan was sworn in as President of the United States. For the families of the 8 servicemen who died at Desert One, the cost of the mission could never be measured in strategy or politics. Their sacrifice became part of a transformation that changed the way America planned, trained, and fought. Today, whenever U.S. Special Operations Forces conduct complex missions across the world, they do so with lessons first learned in the Iranian desert. Operation Eagle Claw failed. Its legacy did not. Dedicated to the 8 servicemen who lost their lives during Operation Eagle Claw on April 25, 1980.